And good morning, everybody. Again, it's Walter. Hi, I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome to our podcast, the Monday morning chat about leadership. As I've discussed with all of you in the past, I like to bring new perspectives to our podcast because it's important that we learn from different perspectives, from different walks of life. And today I'm welcoming Earl to the program. Earl is one of my fellow students in a program that I joined at Mountaintop where we are learning to become more proficient public speakers by joining a group and again, continue to learn. That's what life is all about. That's what professional development is all about. It's not just, working with clients, but also put yourself out there. I'm a student of life and I really enjoyed it. In this process, I met Earl. Earl has a pastoral background and he will share that with us in a few seconds. And he has really developed a very deep love for his three R's. And of course, that's the hook. If you stick around, you get to see and listen and hear and have some key takeaways on what those three R's are and how that can have a positive impact on your life. So, without any further ado, Earl, welcome to the podcast today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll start, asking some questions and get to know more about you and your three R's.
Thank you very much, Walter. Yes, I'm glad to share about myself. I am Earl Menchhofer. I am now living in the Atlanta, Georgia area. About 6 years ago, moving down from Southern Illinois. I relocated in this area at that time to help my mother, who was a senior citizen. Lately, she has now died at age 99, which I give her glory for her life. But my former life I was in parish ministry for over 35 years. Now I am in the midst of sharing my story of helping people overcome life storms and adversities when life throws a curve. I've had my own times of that adversity and hardships and life storms. And I've come to, as you mentioned, that's when through that process, I've learned about discovering the three R's, which I'm glad to share with you in the audience.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that background. And so let's stick before we get into the three R's, because we always learn from deep experiences, right? It is that I think a good coach and good mentor, it did not just read a book, it did not go just to college. It really is about having those trials and errors, or trials and tribulations of life, and as we just shared, and I've shared with my audience too. I really recently, right, only 9 days ago, had a real scare for myself that I was told by a turn of a head or a sneeze, I could have potentially have passed. Luckily, I caught it. I listened to my body, and I was able to find the right surgeon who was able to put me back together, and I'm thriving today. But we've had many of those eye-opening moments in life. Tell us a little bit about your eye-opening moments, in ministry or in your personal life that led to you feeling that you have now the experience to be able to help others in the process of finding those three R's.
I've had several of those experiences. The first of them were forced resignations in parish ministry. I really feel a gut punch in that. I was appreciating my life. I was enjoying my ministry of leading worship each week, as well as pastoral calls and participating in fellowship events. But when church leaders told me that I needed to resign, I wondering what was I going to do next. I really felt a gut punch in that, and then also through other life experiences of my own personal experience of cancer, or my experience with heart bypass surgery, as well as more recently with my youngest brother dying 11 days after my mother died. Those were a gut bunch. And now the most recent life storm I'm going through right now is watching with my wife as she recovers from leukemia. In each of those experiences, I lean on my faith to keep me going forward, but also through those experiences, I've learned that's when I self-discovered the three R's.
Thank you for sharing that, and sorry for your loss of your brother. I know how painful it is to lose somebody close to you, especially when it is long before due
Yeah.
time, right? It is that my mom lived a beautiful 88 years, yours lived to 99 years. Listen, if somebody gives me that today, I'll take that, right?
Yeah.
It is without any questions. But the sad thing is that not all of us get to live a full life. That makes it even more important that each one of us need to realize that, right? And that's what these storms do for us, is that we need to wake up every morning and take full advantage of today. As I always say, yesterday is a bad check. Nothing you can do about yesterday. Tomorrow is still to come. We can plan for that to some extent, but we cannot be distracted by tomorrow. It is what happens today, what is of greatest importance. So why don't we dive into each of the R's? We take them one at a time. I think that the audience by now would really like to know what that first R is. So let's roll with it.
The first R is reflect. When we come upon a life storm, we need to take inventory of where we are. Not so much why we are there, but where we at. And in that inventory, we ask ourselves some questions. The first question we need to ask ourselves, which I ask myself, is, do I want to bounce forward and thrive, or do I want to give up and survive? I made the choice. I wanted to bounce. Each of those life storms I've had, I made a decision. I wanted to bounce back. And then also in reflecting, I also asked the question, once I want to bounce forward, I want to move forward, then I decided, I decide I do want to move forward. And so I then make a declaration. My declaration is, I do not know why this has happened to me, but I'm not going to let it defeat me. I'm going to go forward and thrive instead of survive. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do. And then also in reflecting, I I claim a promise of God. I lean on my faith. And one of the promises of God that I claim is that God says to me every day, I'm in the middle of the storm, I'm holding on to you. I'm holding on to you. And in my own prayer life, I return to say to God, God, I'm holding on. I'm holding on. I'm holding on. In the middle of the storm, I'm holding on to you. So through those self-questioning, it's the way I help myself reflect where I'm at and how I'm going to go forward.
And do you recommend that people reflect through meditation or documentation, journaling, or what is the best way to reflect so you retain it, right? I mean, I can reflect now in a half an hour. I don't remember what I reflected upon. Right. So what is your recommendation to really make sure that the reflection is done the right way?
Yes, I say all of the above because each individual is different. They have to find what works for them, which some ways may work for everybody, but some ways may work better than other ways. In terms of some people might feel comfortable enough with stilling their mind and reflecting that way. Other people it may be better for them, like you said, journal or write it down, or any other way they can think about reflecting. But I think it's just important to ask those questions and maybe ask those questions and maybe didn't write down the answer, things like that. But just and sometimes just reflecting and sitting still is another way of doing it. But everybody has to find what's best for them. I don't
Very
think
good.
one way best. I don't think there's only one way. I think everybody has to find their own way.
Yeah, I
So,
agree with you. I think that, I'm not much of a writer myself. I actually keep in a paperless environment in my office. I don't
yeah,
even have a pen and paper, but I do put things in my telephone now,
yeah,
right? And I put things as a point of reflection or put it onto places on my screen so I can look at that as a point of reflection. So what's the second R?
the second R is recalibrate, which means we make an adjustment. We ended up here, so we have to make an adjustment of some time. And for me, it is one of the tools I talk about in my book, Stay in the Game, 7 Steps Serenity. One of those ways that help me to readjust is have re refocus in my prayer life. And when I'm talking about prayer, I'm not just talking about surface prayers. I'm really talking about deep soaking prayer about situations. And an illustration of that is that God, I'm really painful. It's really painful right now, but I'm going to hang on to you. I'm going to hang on to you, and something like that. But prayer is, I think, is one way to recalibrate. Is putting God first instead of God last in terms of working through the situation. And one other tool to help me recalibrate is what you mentioned already is, I believe you indicated it, is meditation. Is something about there's something about stealing our mind, quieting our mind that helps us make better choices. And by quieting my mind, I'm able to see the situation, the bigger picture. Because when my mind's all busyness, I'm only focused on the situation. I have blinders on. But when I pull back and meditate, what I call in my book, hanging out with God, I'm able to quiet my mind, and my situation doesn't go away immediately, but I have a much better framework in which to look at the situation and handle it. So those are two ways, or some of the ways that one can recalibrate in helping with adversity.
Excellent. I'm interesting. I had a guest the other day who is also more of a spiritual tone to her coaching style. She was a big advocate of having a brain dump in the morning and the afternoons by helping you, quiet your mind. To me, it's about acceptance, right? I think is that initially accepting the new normal.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had an incident take place. Yes, I'm now limited in certain things. That doesn't does it mean that I'm not able to, and I don't never want to play the victim, right? But now I need to just find new ways to recalibrate in order to find my new normal of things that I can do in this life that is now being given to me again. So, really good job. So, what is the third R?
The third R is restore. Once we reflect, once we recalibrate, then we're able to have restored life. And a part of that is celebrating the new life, as you say, the new normal, celebrating the new life that we have, celebrating, from my perspective, also celebrating how God's been working in my life, working it through that adversity, through that life storm, and just moving on, appreciating the newness, appreciating the wholeness that I have now after I've gone through, as you say, accepting the new situation in my life.
So, thank you for sharing that. Really interesting concept, the three R's, and it certainly is something that you can take as a stepped approach, and to help you create, through the process of accepting that something has taken place and creating that new normal. So, one thing that I've experienced is that men tend to be a bit reluctant to say that something is not wrong, not right with me. I will say that women are much better at that, and women are much better at reaching out and seeking help. So tell me a little bit about your approach to take a guy in his middle ages who had an adverse event. Why is it important for them to reach out and not go through the struggle alone?
I really think it's important because I really believe, from my perspective, I believe God doesn't want us to survive. God wants us to thrive. And God also created us to be team members. And sometimes we need to reach out to other people to help. Some people we may not know that can be our team member, but by reaching out, asking for assistance and help, I believe that's one way to help. God can help us to have somebody else help us. So I really believe the sooner we can get the help, the sooner we can thrive and get back on life's path again, and thriving instead of just surviving through life.
Yeah, good. I heard a very scary statistic yesterday, and I'm actually a big advocate of the new concept around suicide prevention, is that two men die every second in this nation due to self-inflicted injuries, right? Suicide. And it is really, really important that we be on the lookout for people who might be in trouble. and be able to reach out to them and not just wait for this and sit back for them to come to us, but to be more cognizant around messaging that is taking place on the social media pages, how they might be interacting with other people around them, or become more and more withdrawn. And so we have to kind of like put ourselves out there to ask simple question, right? And I usually, to my audience, I call that, a reach out Wednesday row, where people should reach out to a distant relevant a relative or a friend or somebody they might not have heard from, who might just need to have that question: how are you today? Would you like to talk today? How can I help you today? And that is very, very, paramount. So you mentioned a little bit that you have written several books. Tell me a little bit about the book. Where can they find it? And then how can people get in touch with you?
Basically, I've written one book, Stay in the Game, 7 Steps to Serenity. It's a book of helping people helping them bounce back from life storms. And I give the 7 tools, the way I discovered helping me to bounce back from life storms. The book is available on Amazon, and people can reach me at my email address, earl@earlmench.com. And I offer, if they want to reach out to me, email, if they want more encouraging emails each day or at least once a week, put on the top of that email inspiration, and I'll put them on the email list. But each month and each week, I send out encouraging, uplifting emails, try to keep people encouraged to keep going forward so they can stay in the game of life.
Earl, thank you very much for this inspirational talk. I really hope that at least one person, and hopefully, of course, many, but I always say that if only one person walks away from this talk with a little bit of inspiration, some courage, and really understanding on how they might, take these 3 R's and turn a bad situation into a new good normal. Listen, then we have done our jobs for the day. Earl, thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to continuing our conversation in the future. And of course, we'll see you in our Facebook group at Mountaintop Site Coaching in the next couple of weeks again.
Thank you very much, Walter.
Have a wonderful day.